Hey, welcome on in. It's another edition of Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. As you can see, we are live from Munganass Alton Toyota here in Alton, Illinois. And Claibs, I just want to point out, so usually, when we do this from our homes, we're shirt and tie, we're dressed up and everything. You see today, I'm going T-shirt today.
I understand.
You see that.
Yeah.
I want to point out, I came today wearing this Munganass St. Louis Acura Polo.
Well, it doesn't fit?
No. It fits just fine. It fits just fine. When I showed up here, Jamie Burkhart and Erica, his right-hand assistant here, really the woman that runs the place.
The brains of the outfit.
Yeah. Okay. They said, that's not going to do today. We need to get you in an Alton shirt. So you see, I got the Burkhart T-shirt on.
Okay.
Yeah, so they took
That's
me.
Very impressive.
They took me to the back and they made me put a T-shirt on for that. So.
Okay. Well, you're gonna get a polo shirt as well. Or?
They don't have them here. You'll see a lot of the people working here have the polos on, but they haven't gotten me one of those yet. So that's why I'm dressed down today with the T-shirt.
That's a very credible excuse.
But yeah, the folks here at Munganass wanted me to change out of that. So.
Well, we invite you to come over and check out the inventory. As you probably know, around the country, a lot of dealers are short on cars. They have a few here. But the best thing is they can still make good deals for you. So if you're in the vicinity and you're thinking about it, man, you know what? It's only going to get worse. So you might as well come on in and take a look at what they have and what they might be able to get their hands on, because cars are very in short supply around the country. But thanks to the good folks here at Munganass, they have enough to make sure you have an opportunity for a good selection.
And they, the best thing about Alton Toyota, one thing I promote every week on Weekend Joe is the fact that you can rent the car. That you can rent a car from here, and now with the country opening back up,
you might want to think about that.
Everything, summer road trips, everything that you didn't get to do last year that you can now go out and do this year. Give them a call up here at Munganass Alton Toyota. It's just the Toyota. It's Alton Toyota that does it. It's not the St. Louis Acura store. It's the Alton Toyota one, because I know both sponsor our show. But I want to make sure that to call the Alton Toyota one. If you want to rent a car, they'll put you in that Toyota and let you go out. I know we're doing it in September when we for the road trip, but we have a few other things, Munganass road trips planned that we'll be doing that for. I was just in Denver this
How did everything
weekend.
work out? You look like you came back in one piece.
I did. I'm going to be resting a few days. That's the first time I've ever been to Colorado, so the altitude
did you go to a baseball game,
got to me. I did.
What'd you
Friday
think of the
night.
ballpark?
That's a nice ballpark. You know what I like about that ballpark, and what I've realized now that I'm getting a little older, and when I go to these different parks, I like when you're able to walk around and see the field from that. And that's something, as nice as Busch is, you can't see the game. If you're walking around everywhere, you can't see the field from certain parts of it. But at Coors Field, you could see.
Wide open.
Yeah, you could see it. And we ended up going up top for most of the game.
That's too far away.
It was nice,
especially
to watch
in the outfield, though. You know something about in right center field.
Yeah,
it's just too far away.
Yeah,
and it is in left field too. But it is a nice park. But you make a good point about access. That's the one thing about the ballpark down in West Palm Beach, where the Nationals and the Astros train.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the game from wherever you stand. Now, granted, it's a minor league park, but I just think that's just a better look compared to how a lot of these ballparks are set up. Now, I don't know if anybody's in line for a new ballpark. I'm
trying to think who would be up
Oakland,
next. Oakland or
Tampa.
Wherever. Well, I guess you shouldn't say Oakland. You should say the Athletics.
Yeah, the Athletics in Tampa. Yeah. And the Athletics and the Rays are going to be looking for new ballparks. And it'll be interesting to see how that works as far as the sight lines, but also the capacity. I don't think we're going to see any more 50,000 seat stadiums anymore.
No,
I think
and you go 40,000. I mean,
38
that's fine.
to 43,000, and you're fine.
I'm going. So this weekend, I'm going up to. I'm going to the rooftops at Wrigley for Saturday for Cubs Cardinals. But on Friday, since I got a little time, I've never been to Miller Park, or I guess now it's American Family Ballpark up in Milwaukee. Yeah. I've never been there, so Friday I'm going to drive up there before I go to Chicago and go check out that park.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's I've never. I mean, I've never heard glowing reviews about it. But if you go and I was doing this over the weekend. If you go and look at, because I was curious where Coors Field ranked as far as older stadiums go, and just where it is, because it's been up since what, 95.
Yeah,
I think.
Right.
I mean, it's seen it in person. It doesn't look anywhere. I mean, they don't need a new ballpark there.
They maintained it well.
But when you look at the evolution of ballparks and you see that it was around the time Coors was built, and then all of the retractable roofs started to get built after that. You're talking the one in Seattle and Milwaukee, and
Seattle's real nice. Milwaukee, it's kind of dark. It's kind of dark inside. Now, I base my visits to ballparks on broadcast booths.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And access to the field and to the clubhouse. But, every now and then you'll sit out there in the stands and just, kind of take it in. That's why I'm not a big fan of Wrigley Field. I mean,
no, and to go from the broadcast booth down to the field at Wrigley it's a maze.
There's only two ways. They put a new elevator in out in left field. You can walk all the way down there and then walk all the way back behind home plate. Or you can just go down the ramp, walk through the stands, and you can get to the field. But, it's not one of my favorites.
The first time when I went there to cover the playoff game in 2015, after the game ended, I didn't realize what I was in for, trying to get from the press box down to the field. And what I quickly learned, because there's one ramp to take everybody, all the fans down, all the press down, everybody.
Gotta go early.
What I realized and the trick I learned for those two games was to find Derek Gould's head and follow that, because the way he weaved in and out of all the people to get down there was masterful. That's a man that had done it before.
Yeah, it's an adventure. It's definitely that.
But I've told this story before about Miller Park. I found myself in a conversation with Barry Bonds several years ago when he was the hitting coach for the
Miami Marlins.
When he was Miami, and he kind of unprompted just flat out told me that Miller Park was the worst park that he ever played in. As far as an outfielder goes, as far as a player goes, for tracking fly balls and hitting,
I could see
he said that was the worst one that he had ever played.
Although that place is normally in the top 5, and as far as launching pads in baseball, a lot of home runs get hit there. So, and there's a few reasons on why that is, especially if you think about how the home team has a huge advantage.
Yep.
That's kind of changed since Major League Baseball has suggested that
you see, Christian Yelich's numbers have gone down just a little bit since the Astros got caught cheating. Funny how that works out. I tell you what, the Cardinals could use something along those lines. Anything right now would help with how bad of a weekend they had. So being out of town, I didn't have access to the games or really the desire to check in on the games as much as I usually do. You were there for all 4. As far as an experience at the ballpark for a 4-game weekend, how miserable was that for you?
Well, the whole weekend could have changed in every game with one hit, one timely hit, and the Cardinals could have won all 4 games. Having said that, one pitch cost them, because the Cardinals were in a situation where there were some games where had an additional run not been scored later in the game, and it was carelessness in some cases, they could have won the game. They would have had enough to win. They had keen opportunities. Yesterday, you have Goldschmidt and Arenado on second and third with nobody out. O'Neill pops up on the infield, 2 strikeouts. Two strikeouts that were terrible balls to swing at. They chased. So, it was that kind of stuff. The 2 other games, Goldschmidt at the plate, tying run at second base, or maybe even at third base, strikes out both 2 nights. And I forgot how the last game ended.
Well, Rammer and I talked about this Friday morning about the game Thursday. So watching the game on Thursday, the way that went, that was the game Goldschmidt had the day off. And you're just looking at strategy-wise for that. And it shows how light the bench is for the Cardinals, because in that moment, what was it, first and second, I think, or whatever the situation was, bringing Goldschmidt up just to walk in that situation, or bringing him up the way that they did it, was kind of questionable, but then you kind of looked at who else they had on the bench, and you really don't. And Lane Thomas is on the roster, I think hitting 103 right now on the year, and there's no real use for him. And you see that now with Jose Rondon being brought up and immediately being put in right field.
Here's a guy who's been a career infielder.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had 2 starts in the outfield before now, and he's playing more than Lane Thomas.
And you're getting Edmund a lot in right field.
Yeah, and you know, Justin Williams has got the neck problem, but you know, he wasn't as effective as he needed to be. You know, we were talking about this the other day. I'm not sure if I've seen a more feeble bench for the Cardinals in a long time. Remember that one year they hit all those home runs as pinch hitters? Jeremy Hazelbaker had a pretty good year and haven't never been heard from since. But point being, they haven't been able to find any ample play. Here's a better one. John Nagowski. And remember, you and I went back and forth, and I didn't think he was going to make the ball club. He did make the ball club. He's 1 for 18.
Yeah.
So it almost goes back to saying, now I know why he wasn't in the big leagues before now. Now, that doesn't mean he can't play here. I don't know if he can play on this team, and this is how I value players.
And that you look at the way he hit in spring training, he got a lot of opportunities every day, and then immediately shifts into a bench role. Yeah, and that's something that a guy either has or they don't have.
You know, I talked to him about it, and he said when he got called up, when he made a team, Goldschmidt, Matt Carpenter, and a couple other veterans came to him and said, hey, look, I know you haven't done this before. I know some guys that have done it. I'll put you in touch with them so you have an idea of how to prepare and what to look for, which is says a lot about the character of a team, where Goldschmidt can say, I'm going to get somebody to help you, because if he can help you, that means you can help the team. If you help the team, that means you help us all. And, you know, we're a better team. But with that said, it's still there's Mike Schultz working with a short bench, and
there's nobody there. There's nobody down in Memphis that you can bring up.
Even Austin Dean, he's got a broken hamate, so he can't play, and nobody else is really swinging the bat well. I said, we talked about this 3 weeks ago, and I said to you, the only help the Cardinals can get is going to be from outside the organization. They don't have anybody that can help them. So what does Mo say last week? Well, we're going to start looking outside the organization. And that's not to say that he didn't know this before I said it, but it's just so evident that we just don't have it. And we probably have guys who are here who really should be in the minors. And that's not an indictment against their skill set. It's just not as developed as it needs to be on a consistent, competitive team. Now, can some of these guys go play for the Pittsburgh Pirates? Just sure they can. Some of the other teams in baseball, can some of them make the Minnesota Twin team? Probably so. But we're not one of those teams. We're trying to be in a position of being a contender, not only for the division, but certainly to go well in the postseason. And those players just aren't in a position to help. Now, with maybe more seasoning, they could. We don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, and you're going to get some help coming up with Paul DeYoung coming back, not tomorrow. He's probably going to be coming back Friday, right?
I would think you'll see him in Chicago.
That's so.
But here's let me back
here's
up,
the
though.
thing. When you
hold on for a second. With DeYoung, we're all anticipating him coming back. Do you remember how he went out?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he wasn't setting the world on fire. I mean, I know he had some home runs, but the strikeout total was alarming. And I'm wondering how much time is it going to take for him to get settled in?
But it's Paul DeYoung is still going to help this team more than Lane Thomas is.
Yes.
So that's the team will improve. And it's also going to improve when you look at the depth, because I think the writing's on the wall to where Edmundo Sosa has worked his way into this mix, where Edmundo Sosa was he was the 27th man on a 26-man bench to start the season, and he has earned the playing time now to where you're either going to have him and DeYoung splitting time at short, you're going to have Sosa move and play a little second base, which will put Edmund in right field, or you're going to have Edmundo Sosa coming off the bench now. So it's going to help in some way. And then when Harrison Bader comes back, that opens up a few more opportunities with all the moving pieces of that. So there are two guys out there who are better than what you have on the bench right now. You know, Harrison Bader and Paul DeYoung are better options than Lane Thomas and John Nagowski. right now.
Agree. Yeah.
So that is coming from within the organization, but you still do need help outside of the organization.
Yeah.
But I think the pitching is really where you need help outside of the organization before maybe the bats.
No, you're right. The pitching right now has just become so troublesome. You're not getting length. You're not getting strikes, although they haven't walked as many guys recently. But it's still a situation
They're
that
hitting enough guys.
Yeah, I you know what? I was talking to somebody, maybe it's John Rooney yesterday. I said, when is somebody going to start hitting the Cardinals
This weekend?
I mean, well, you might see. I really thought Cincinnati was
was shocked.
when they had a 7-0 lead. I'm saying, well, if you're ever going to do it, it's now. But they didn't. But, you can't keep using the same excuse where it just got away from them. Okay. If I'm Goldschmidt and Arenado, I'm kind of thinking I can't dig in here because I'm going to be first guy to hit. Or maybe they hit the 8th place hitter just to send a message that we know what you're doing. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that go with it. But this hit batsman thing and this same pitch, they're just trying to run it in. And they're throwing 4-seamers that are running in on guys. And that's why the ball's hitting guys in the shoulder and in the elbow. And fortunately, not in the head. I mean, you don't want those.
No, and you're going into a weekend series with the Cubs this weekend. Cardinals right now, I believe, have hit 48 guys. The Cubs have hit 40 on the year. So you could see the games getting out of hand in a hurry.
But you know what? As you say that, and you're right, they could get out of hand, but I think both sides know how feeble the other one is. Hey, I'm not mad at this guy. I'm not trying to sell the score from last time. Hey, man, I don't know where it's going.
Right.
So let me ask you this question. With that said, in this whole issue about foreign substance, is this substance that good where it creates such a good grip for some guys? Now, you have two trains of thought here. Some guys are using it just to have a good grip so they don't kill somebody. Other guys are using it to enhance their spin rate. And I guess we can look at who's doing what to figure out why they're doing it. But at some point, we got to find middle ground on what is an acceptable substance that guys can use to get grip where they don't kill somebody.
I think it goes back to how the balls are prepped beforehand. And I think the fact that changed a few years ago is now causing these guys to go find other substances to use and look into other things. And to be honest with you, what was it? The suntan lotion? Is that what Gallego said was on his
sunscreen?
I don't know how that helps grip a baseball, but
well, yeah, it's a little tacky. But the problem is there are some substances that have been created in a lab solely for the intent purpose of creating a spin rate. And that's what Mike Schilt and some other guys are complaining about. Major League Baseball has said we're going to start cracking down. And, they should. But I think they have to make sure they don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because you touched on something. There's an art to rubbing up a ball. It uses Delaware mud, and the umpires used to do it. Now it's the clubhouse guys that do it. So the whole process is one that's it's a tedious task. But if you don't do it right, somebody can get hurt. No, and we're seeing we just talked about two teams that have almost hit 100 people this year. Okay?
Yeah.
Two teams, 88 people. Bob Gibson's whole career, he hit 112, and they thought he was a headhunter. So just think about how this thing has gotten so far off the tracks.
Yeah, it just, spin rate has just been going through the charts this year. You look back in 2017 for what it is as far as fastballs go, it's risen from 22.59 to 23.18 for fastballs in just the last 4 years in all of baseball. And when you look at just hitting against it too, it's just astronomical how far the batting averages are dropping when the spin rate is higher too.
Let me ask you this. Have you noticed, I know they said they were going to decrease the flight of the ball a little bit, have a little bit more limited flight. I haven't seen a home run hit this week that wasn't over 420 feet.
I didn't see the ball. I didn't see the home runs this weekend.
One O'Neill hit, he hit it in David Freese country out in center field.
Yeah.
And I think they measured it 421, maybe 427. But my point being, everybody is crushing balls.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about limited flight. I asked Tommy Pham about that the other day. He said in some ballparks, you can see it's having an effect. He said, but here's something that nobody's talking about. He said these limited flight balls are making these baseballs break sharper. He said you get one of these limited flight balls in the right pitcher's hand, and he said that's one of the reasons why. He said don't worry about spin rate. He said watch the action on them. And I started paying attention to him, and I was like, yeah, you're because there's some guys that they are breaking balls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just snapping them off. So there's a lot of things that are going on with regard to the game. But
do you follow the Pitching Ninja on Twitter?
No.
Rob Friedman, I think's his name, and he'll do overlays he'll take somebody like a DeGrom, and he'll put the video right on top of each other of DeGrom throwing a fastball and DeGrom throwing a sinker.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And where it just, I mean, you just see the arm release, everything is all the exact same. And you just see one ball go one way and another ball go the other way. And he's been doing that this weekend too for the softball, for the College World Series.
Which I thoroughly enjoy.
They have done such a good job of promoting that, and the coverage that has gotten this past weekend has been so good for that sport. But seeing, who is it, Fouts, the girl Fouts, and watching, I saw an overlay of her drop ball, her rise ball, and her fastball. And from that close of a distance, you don't stand a chance.
Where they isolated the spin when it comes out of her hand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. I mean, and I played competitive softball. I always thought fast pitch was harder compared to unlimited flight, But what these women are able to do is it's very, you know what? I tell you, it's more entertaining watching baseball.
You're getting about as many strikeouts as you do in baseball.
But I mean, they're athletic. They do some things.
Yeah.
I tell you what they do. They throw to the right base all the time. I mean, fundamentally, they really seem like they have an idea of what they're doing. So it's so if you haven't had a chance to check them out, the ESPN's like they having games that start at like 1:00 in the morning.
That's a little overkill. That's a little overkill. Yeah.
I get home one night, and I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, well, I'm surfing. And I was like, there's maybe some highlights from a softball game. And then I realized it's actually going on as we speak.
Yeah. I think there was a little bit of a rain delay during that day. And
so it was cool.
But, yeah, that was maybe a little bit too much. So 2 against Cleveland this weekend, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Bieber.
Off day.
Bieber's pitching tomorrow.
Okay.
That'll be fun. Speaking of strikeouts.
Yeah. Francona in town for how close was he, you think, to getting the Cardinal job? Back in 11.
I think had he been in better health, he could have got it.
Yeah.
He had experience. He was respected. I think he was in the midst of his health and being burned out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That Boston job took a lot of steam out of him. But I thought he was pretty close. I think he was the only legitimate candidate other than Mike Matheny.
I don't know. I'm looking what their record is. You might know it off the top of your head.
I don't.
Where they are right now. But I'm just gonna say, they're 31-26. On
so
the
it
year.
Should be a good matchup.
And this might be one of the best managing jobs that he's done, because after trading away Lindor,
Bauer, a number of people that they've moved on or let walk.
Yep. This might be the best job that he's done with those guys.
If he keeps them close, it'll be interesting to see.
I mean, they should be. I mean, Detroit and Minnesota both have 24 wins on the year, and I think a lot of people thought that Cleveland was going to be down there with them.
I think what I'd heard, Cleveland wouldn't lose 100. But they'd be within arm's distance of it because of what talent they didn't have.
Yeah. Who's pitching for the Cardinals this week?
Carlos and Wainwright, I guess.
Oh, you named the 2 starters that are active.
Yeah, I think Carlos and Wainwright. You know what? You're right. Yeah, you're right. Because I was going to say Cake. No, not him.
Right. Jack's gone for a while.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. And
you imagine, Oviedo just starts every week on a random day. So you imagine Oviedo gets thrown in there at some point.
But you know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see them throw Jake Woodford out for a start.
You do have the 2 off days, so that helps a lot.
Just a different, although Oviedo, this might have been his best outing. It was a short one only because they were looking for bats.
Yeah.
But I think overall it was a pretty good outing for him. He's just got to keep it simple, man, and just trust his stuff. And that's one of the big problems. If you don't have conviction on a pitch you're about to throw, it's not going to be a good pitch. And I think he was more convinced he can make strikes. And so we'll see what happens.
All right, we'll move away from baseball talk, get into more here at Munganass Alton Toyota right after this.
You know, the only thing faster than this supersonic golf cart are the closing times at thehomeloanexpert.com. Mortgage rates are in the twos, and we have a 21-day closing guarantee. Apply online today at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Okay, I guess we're back. I tried to play a Ryan Kelly spot. That's what I was trying to do.
Home loan expert.
Yeah, I was trying to get him. He joined us last week. I'm trying to play a spot of his here on the show. It just didn't work out. So tell me about our friend Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert.
Well, the big climb is over. They raised a lot of money for that. But more importantly, folks, just like the car business, the home industry is a very competitive one right now as far as actual inventory. And one of the things they're all going to tell you is if you're not pre-qualified, you have no chance. I mean, none. Now, you may be able to bring in cash. That cash is king. But if you're not pre-qualified for a home loan, your chances of getting that dream home or the home you thought you wanted, it's not going to happen. So this is why you need to give Ryan Kelly a call, a home loan expert, or go online and check him out. It's a very brief application that you fill out, and you'll know exactly what you'll have as far as money to spend on purchasing a home. And maybe you have improvement standpoint, but it starts with a phone call or going online, because that's where it goes, because it's just too competitive right now. There are people standing in line waiting to take a crack at a home, and as you've heard, there are a lot of homes on the market, but if you have all your T's crossed and I's dotted, thanks to Ryan Kelly and the home loan expert, then you have a better chance than you did yesterday before you heard me talking about them. So check them out. thehomeloanexpert.com. Ryan Kelly's his name. He's got a great team of people who the effort they're going to put in is something that you've never seen before, but I guarantee once you do business with him one time, he will be your person from this point on. The home loan expert, Ryan Kelly.
NBA playoff second round got underway this weekend. Should I buy in on the Hawks?
Yeah. I mean, you know what? They can beat Philadelphia. Philadelphia, it's just something missing from that team. And, I know Embiid's banged up a little bit, but you've got some other guys who just haven't been able to step up. And now that they're all concerned about one player from Atlanta, they got a couple other guys that can kill you. So I think the Hawks are fun. They're well coached. I think that has a lot to do with it. And we'll see what happens. I think they can make at least a 6-game series with Philadelphia, if not go 7.
Yeah.
And now they've proven they've won in their building already. Right? That goes far.
Well, they won in the Garden. Mm-hmm. They won 2 games in the Garden against the Knicks. So no other place should. Scared. Yeah, I was going to say no other place should scare them.
Yeah. So I think they're going to be fun to watch.
So is it going to come down to the East too? Whoever wins that Nets-Bucks series?
Yeah, I would think so. And now with Harden being iffy because of the hamstring, you just never know. I like Milwaukee's trio. I mean, they don't have the name recognition that the Nets have. But, Drew Holiday's making $40 million a year. And there's a reason.
$40 million
he just signed a new deal. See, how about this? So they're talking about an extension for Steph Curry. Mm-hmm. It's going to be somewhere between $53 and $54 million a year.
I mean, the NBA has the money now.
A lot of it. and what's fair about it is they share in the product with the owners. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's 51-49 players or 50-50, something. It's something like that. But they share in the wealth. And so that means that the owner has enough money to pay these guys.
Yeah.
So it's a good setup.
Jeez. Neither one of the West Conference semifinals have started yet. So one of those gets underway tonight. I think it's Nuggets tonight against Oh, I'm trying to
Utah.
think. Is it Nuggets, Utah,
Yeah.
and then it's the Clippers against the Suns? Is it Clippers Suns on the other side?
All I know is
I know those are the 4 teams.
so. You know what? Here's something that we all should pay attention to. You ever notice that all these teams that are in it were teams that were out of it early last year? And when you look at the Miamis and the Lakers and some of those teams that are out in the first round, and I think the same can be said in hockey. I think we're seeing what a compressed schedule and the quick turnaround can do to some teams. Pat Riley, they shut their building down for a week before they won't let anybody back in because he said we're all burnt out. We need to get away from it for a bit. And I think it's a good situation. So
we were wrong.
I think
Nuggets Suns.
That's going to be that's 2 coaches of the year nominees.
Yeah, Nuggets Suns, Clippers Jazz.
Those are going to be those will be better than what the East can provide.
You think those? I mean, the Bucks Nets.
Star power, of course, but man, when you want to watch team basketball, those four teams are really good. And the neat thing about it is none of them have been there, so they got nothing. They're playing with house money right now.
Where were the Nuggets made it to? Were the Nuggets in
conference finals?
I was going to say they were conference finals. I thought last year.
Yeah, and they're finding ways to win. I don't know if I have a favorite. I guess I would go with the Nuggets because they're fun to watch. But Utah is too. I'm not a big Donovan Mitchell fan, but he gets it done. You know what? I wouldn't be shocked by any team breaking through.
No, and you could say that. I mean, like we just talked about in the East too. The Sixers are. I think the Sixers are the 1 seed, but something's missing,
home.
and
they can go home quick.
It seems like the Nets or the Bucks are better. Are better teams than both of them.
I think the Nets and Bucks are better equipped. Because you talk about the big 3 with Brooklyn. Hey, somebody better guard Joe Harris because if he starts knocking threes down early, that's a headache. That's a problem. And he's one of the best 3 shooters in the game, and he has size to go with it. They're a good team, and I tip my cap to their head coach in his first year and doing such a good job. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So far through the first 2 games of the semifinals, we haven't seen any kind of fans do anything stupid that we saw in the first round. What did we have in the first round? We had popcorn
water spilled, spit. Somebody spit and the guy ran out on the court.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw you were traveling, Mexico-U.S. soccer yesterday.
I have it down on my – you're talking about running through the when he ran through the
right. Well,
the pregame
the
show?
fact they were throwing things on the field. A couple of players got hit with bottles of urine. So people sit at home and concoct this sort of stuff. But my point is, between what we saw in soccer, what we saw in the NBA, there were some issues at the golf tournament this weekend as well, where they had to evict some people from there.
Really? Was it just the ones that were yelling at?
They were heckling
Koepka or Bryce DeChambeau.
Yeah. But bottom line is, hey, look, everybody's forgotten their manners, man. Hey, you pay to cheer and boo. You don't pay to do the other things that we're seeing. And, we just hear about some instances. You can sit in the stands and you can turn around and hear people say, you can't believe what people say. We got to get back to normalcy on that front. And these people who think they can go confront a player, and think nothing's going to happen, well, you get in that airspace, man, you better be ready to deal with it. And I think it's just a matter of time.
All right. So I have a problem, though, at the golf at the Memorial with the getting rid of fans for heckling Bryson, because that rivalry, those 2 have started that on their own, and they're going to have their own fans that are going to join in on it.
Yeah, but you know what? If it affects your game where, if they need quiet and if they need, the decorum that's required to play golf, you can't violate that. I mean, if they ask you to be quiet, you shut the hell up. You can come back and say
if it's during a backswing, then yeah.
But I think it's not just the antics. It's maybe some of the vile things that are said. I mean, because people have no filter anymore when it comes to thinking they can say anything and feel there's no penalty for it. I think that that's something that we have to come to grips with and say, hey, look, just like at the Cardinal games, they have this disclaimer they post on the scoreboard, hey, no abusive language. They kind of list all the things you can't do and ask you not to do. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard, but people feel like they want to do it anyway. And it's going to come to a head. It's going to come to a head.
Speaking of the Memorial this past weekend, what do you think of the decision that the PGA had to make to pull John Rahm?
Well, I didn't like how they told him. You tell him in the middle of an interview, hey, by the way, you're positive. I thought that was wrong. I would like to know when did they feel was the opportune time? Because he finishes round, he's shaking hands with somebody else. So they allowed all those things to happen. There's a better way they could have handled that. And it's unfortunate for him, 6-stroke lead. I mean, think about how many guys have a 6-stroke lead going into the final day of a round on golf. So I kind of felt they mishandled that. But, they weren't the only ones. We talked about the French Open and how they handled things there. These organizations and these committees need to step back and take a deep breath and not rush to judgment as quickly and feeling like they have to have the last word. Let's talk about it before we have a word at all.
In the PGA, if you have been vaccinated, you don't have to go through the daily testing. And John Rahm has not been vaccinated, so he does have to go through over and over again. But on top of that, it is also golf, which is played outdoors and can be played individually. So in a sense, you could have had him out there on his own by himself golfing yesterday. You even tell him, okay, you don't get a caddy either. You carry your own bag.
Look your own bag. Yeah.
You have to take every shot with a mask on, and you have to play. You have to do it that way. So there were ways that golf could have done it, but I don't think they had.
I don't think they thought it out.
No, they never expected a guy that far ahead going into the final round. Something like that would have happened.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think a lot of times either we rush to judgment and we don't think it all the way through. And we just think this will put a capper on it and we'll be okay. I'm sure they're having a meeting right about now, and I'm sure the PGA's probably got to have a meeting about, all right, who's been vaccinated, who hasn't, and how we deal with the ones who aren't vaccinated.
Yeah, the British Open's coming up, right?
Yeah,
and that's causing international travel, which is going to come up for some of these guys as well.
Well, some countries are opening up more. Some countries have more restrictions than maybe we have in this country. Yeah. So I think you're right. If I'm one of those guys, I bring my clubs, I bring my patience, because I think it's going to change a little bit.
Yeah. You just had Canada announce last week that there's going to be no kind of quarantining or anything for the NHL, because starting up in this next week, for the first time this year, you're going to have either the Canadians or the Jets coming over into America. Yeah. And that is something that those players have not done yet. So you're going to have that. And they said no quarantine, just be smart.
Roll the dice here.
Yeah. Be smart. Don't do anything stupid, and we'll let you play. And the same thing, for the players going up to Canada for that too, that they're not going to put any kind of, any kind of extra restrictions on that.
I think at this point, obviously, still half the country is not vaccinated, but at some point, you're basically playing at your own risk. If you've been vaccinated, then it's more acceptable compared to those who feel, and that's their reason. But if they feel like that's something they want to do and not get vaccinated, understand what comes with that.
Yeah. How many MLB teams are at 85%?
I think 20.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 20.
Because I know some other Cubs are still not. Yeah. So this weekend, when you see the games, you'll still see David Ross and players in masks, and you'll still see that, even though the Cardinals don't do that anymore.
Well, I was on the elevator with a guy from Cincinnati, their organization, the other day, and we were talking about this. He said, "What about you guys?" I said, "Man, we were first." And I said, "You obviously weren't paying attention to what happened to us last year." And he's just like, "Oh yeah, you're right." He said, if you guys weren't first, I don't know who should be." We all learned a lesson about how this thing worked last year. So which we haven't talked about, where media will have access to the field 3 hours before the game. You have to wear a mask, which is for us.
Is that I didn't see that part of the on there.
You have to wear a mask if you want to interview somebody. But from an access standpoint, it's a welcome relief for a lot of people. So we'll see how it works.
Yeah, just to get down there and just to have conversation. I saw, Derek last week in LA had his conversation with Albert.
Yeah.
If you saw any of the video from it or you saw his tweets from it, you saw that it was through the netting.
Yeah.
And that's a case too where somebody, like you or Derek or, one of the broadcasters that has been there for so long, if a player like that sees you, like if you were down there, Albert would come over to you and come over and say hi, to where somebody like me, he has no clue who I am. Yeah, he's going to keep moving, to where since baseball has given access like that, still for people, think of someone like Katie Wu, who just started with the team and who players are going to be seen for the very first time this week on the field.
By the way, she does a really nice job.
Yeah.
I enjoy her reading, her work.
Yeah, and for somebody like her, that the players have no clue who she is. I mean, it's been hard. And even her
and
going
she didn't
down,
even cover spring training.
Right.
Remember, this is all new to her.
Right. Even her going down to the netting is something that, they're not going to have any idea who she is or who she's there to cover or talk to. And the access to that is going to make, if you like her reading now, or anybody who's reading, who's writing,
she's
that
better
you
than
like,
what they used to have,
is you're going to have, you're going to have all kinds of new access and new stories and new angles for stuff to be covered on by a lot of your writers. It's not going to be right now. Claibs and I have the exact same access in press conferences. When we're both in there, it's in there. And we hear the same thing that the other 30 people in those press conferences hear on the Zoom.
You would have been on the one yesterday. You might have turned it off forever.
What happened? You going to tell me in about 10 minutes when we were about 10 minutes.
I came within an eyelash of just crashing my own computer because I never want to see it again. Granted, you know what? I knew where it was going. That probably wasn't the place to conduct that sort of questioning.
All right. So my flight yesterday, my race was in Boulder, Colorado at 7:15. Finished that. Got back, packed up the Airbnb, got to the airport. As I get to first time having to go through security and everything at the Denver airport, which is
a great airport, by the way.
It's a nice airport. And hey, I'll tell you this, going through Lambert, much easier than going through there because there's a lot less flights.
Yeah.
But
if you ever want to get snowed in, that Denver, Pittsburgh, West Palm Beach. You want to get snowed in?
West Palm Beach. That's what I was going to say.
No, Denver's good. Pittsburgh, Seattle, although it doesn't snow that much there. Where else?
My flight yesterday, though, went from Denver to Panama City to St. Louis.
So you went from Denver to Florida to St. Louis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to get off the plane with everybody else in Panama City and just kind of wing it. I had no plans. I don't know anybody there, but it seemed like a good move.
Nah. Nothing in Panama City.
Hey, before we get out of here, just quickly, Julio Jones traded from the Atlanta Falcons to the Tennessee Titans. He was hurt almost all of last year. He's been very injury prone. In his prime, though, was the best receiver in the NFL. But he joins a Titans offense that has the best running back in the NFL and a very good already starting wide receiver in A.J. Brown.
They're going to be good, because they're going to have to find someone. Their defense isn't very good.
But they have a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah.
So
maybe he can focus more on that. Tennessee kind of is like a wild card. You just don't know what you're going to get from them. You mentioned Derrick Henry, Julio. So the offense, that whole 8-man-to-box thing the teams are trying to do against, that's not going to work anymore because you have these two guys on the outside. You better have you some corners that know how to tackle and cover because they're going to be busy. So I like the deal. I think you're going to see some other guys moving before training camp. This is kind of an awkward year as far as teams trying to get better quick, and teams are trying to look. Salary cap, it has cycles where you can load up and do some things every 3, 4, 5 years. But man, when you get all of it starting to come back to haunt you, then it puts you in a really bad spot, and you see some teams that are just cap stricken. They can't move forward because they have either too much money on the book or too much dead money on the book. So Tennessee's going for it. So
yeah, they are.
And
I can't imagine Russell Wilson up in Seattle is too happy with that, because I would think that he wanted Julio Jones as a target for him up there.
And when you see what they gave up for him,
not much.
A 2 and a 4 in a 2 and 22 and a 4 and 23. But he had that big contract. So the thing is, with Russell,
a lot of money going there, and he's been
well
hurt.
with Russell Wilson being disappointed. I think the fact that I think he has to look and see what Seattle's cap situation is like. So.
I mean, Julio Jones, I believe, is 32. I think 31, 32 years old. Like, you look when D'Angelo Hopkins was traded, he was 27.
Big difference.
So huge difference in what both teams gave up. And then finally, last night, I don't know if you followed it. I was dead asleep before it even started. Floyd, you didn't even know where I was going to say, you know exactly where I'm going with this. Floyd Mayweather against Logan Paul down at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. I don't. Who is buying this?
Gluttons for punishment. People who just feel like they're going to get their money's worth finally with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather was as good of a boxer as I witnessed back in the day. Floyd didn't get hit. He knew how to slip punches. Couldn't knock a guy out because he had bad hands. But it's nothing he could do. He could have my worst enemy in the ring, and I'd get that guy better beaten than he could, because he's a stick and move guy. He's trying not to get hit or hurt. I don't know why people paid the money, but apparently somebody did. But he won't get any of mine. There's not a fight on the planet that I'd like to see him in.
I mean, when you look at what the Paul brothers, and we've talked about them quite a bit on here, because Jake Paul now has a fight coming up against Tyrone Woodley.
Yeah.
When you look at what they have turned the world of boxing into, they've turned it into professional wrestling.
It's a sham. And shame on boxing for allowing these sort of antics to take place compared to insisting that their fighters be more active. I think what's happening with boxing in the U.S., we don't have enough American fighters that are ascending in various weight classes. We don't even talk about the heavyweight division anymore, but we need to have some younger guys in some of these weight classes where they can do some damage. Latin fighters and the Russian fighters have really started to dominate those weight classes. And American fighters, I've always felt like in boxing, it was about style and verbiage, hence Muhammad Ali. No fan wants to sit there and listen to a guy and have an interpreter explain to him how he's going to kick somebody's ass. And I go back to Roberto Duran, hands of stone, maybe two of the best hands I've seen. Anyway, I thought that hurt his career. As great of a champion as he was, he didn't speak English, and he had translators translating for him, but you lost the aura, and he was a trash talker, but you didn't know it. Manuel Mayorga, who Corey Spinks beat, was the same way. But, when they speak in their native tongue, which I have no problem with, it's hard for Americans to really wrap their arms around. That's why Oscar De La Hoya was such a fan favorite. We talked about Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, even Floyd Mayweather. And whether you liked them or not, you knew what they were saying. You knew what they were trying to do as far as hype the fight. So how do American fighters get more engaged? I guess we'd have to find out after they figure out how male tennis players from the United States can be better.
Right. Before we get out of here, so 5 games this weekend for the Cardinals: Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as they are on a real, 7 of 8 they've lost right now. What do you need to see out of them this week?
Lengthen the rotation, some more consistent hitting at the bottom of the order, and cut down on the walks and just throw strikes.
I'm looking forward to seeing if Paul DeJong returns this weekend to see how they go about getting Sosa consistent playing time there.
I'm anxious to see what Goldschmidt, Arenado, and O'Neal could do at Wrigley Field right about now.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see that. And, I like to see what Carlson can do. Carlson's never played there. So you think about it.
Did he not play there last year?
No, we didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking you're right. Yeah, he played there. I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm thinking about when the Cubs didn't come here.
Yeah, Cubs didn't come here, right.
But bottom line is, I'm anxious to see what those guys can do up there. And then on the other side of the coin, I'm sure the Cubs are saying with that Cardinal pitching, we can't wait to see some of our guys get the batter's box. So I predict we're going to have at least 1 3-hour and 40-minute game because we'll see a lot of bullpen changes. We'll see that. I think did we go 4 hours yesterday? It felt like it.
I was flying all over America yesterday.
No, I think it's like 350 something.
Yeah.
But my point being, it's going to be a long weekend, and you have night games, right?
Saturday's a night game. Yeah,
Saturday night's a night game, and Sunday night's a night game.
Is it a night game? It always is.
So that's no fun. You want to hang out in Chicago on Saturday night.
I'd say that's why we did the rooftops for Saturday, because it's a Saturday night game and those are rare at Wrigley. So that's why we're doing the rooftop for that one. So
you'll have fun with that.
Yeah, definitely. So that'll do it for us here today as we are at Munganass Alton Toyota. It's lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganass Alton Toyota, along with Munganass St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Find him online at thehomeloanexpert.com. Again, come on out here, Claibs, as you were mentioning, the deals that they have out here at Munganass Alton Toyota, as they've just been, cars have been flying off the lot here.
Folks, he's not lying. These cars have been moving pretty quick because, A, inventory is short, but B, there are great deals being made here. So come on out, check out some of the used vehicles, still some new cars on the lot, but either way, come check them out. Let them make you an offer you can't refuse.
We will be back next Monday, but still plenty of content to be listened to here on claibsonline.com. You have daily cards with me and Rammer every day, the Keith Costas podcast each and every week.
The Weekend Joe.
Yeah, what else?
Dr. Rick will have something coming up with him. I was with somebody Saturday night, one of the greatest players in our lifetime. And we were talking, and we started talking about another sport, and I was wowed by how much he knew about a sport he didn't play. I was fascinated.
You gonna name drop anything, or are you just gonna leave it at that?
When they're on the podcast, you'll
okay.
know
Oh, that's all. That's what good.
And I'm gonna make the call today and say, hey,
all right,
we got to do this.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Hey, we'll talk to you later, everybody. Thanks for listening to Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com.